Are there steps to take to control our anger? Definitely, definitely. With anger is very similar to this. So we have two levels of dealing with our anger. First level is at that moment, right? When we are angry, what do? The first thing we said is to be there. See, sometimes all that happens is that anger takes over, someone does something, says something, we get triggered, and anger comes, takes control, and releases itself, and suddenly we are back. You're like, oh my God, what did I do? Why did I say that? I didn't want to say that. So we should make sure that this doesn't happen. So what should happen? We should be there, right? We should try and catch anger the first second it arises, where the first thoughts are coming to your mind. Try to be there. Now, initially, you may not be able to stop it. Maybe anger is so strong, the pattern is so strong that still it does what it does. Anger comes and it says certain things, does certain actions till it gets released, the energy gets released. But at least make sure you're there, right? So one scenario is you're not even there, you lose control, anger comes, does certain thing, you're like suddenly, oh my God, why did I do that? Or the scenario which is more preferable is you catch yourself being angry. You're like, oh my God, I have these angry thoughts. My body is getting very angry. Right? Even if you can't stop it, at least be there, observe it, be there in your body when this is happening. Watch it, okay? Now, if it's too strong, you can't do anything about it, well, just by being there, you made it a little bit weaker. Just by being there, observing it. Yes, I'm angry. Not anger is there. I can see I'm angry. Angry thoughts are there. I'm doing something angry. I'm saying something hurtful, but I am there. Now, if it's too strong, well, just be there. But if it's not that strong, try, and especially, anger, it grows exponentially. So initially, when it starts at its root, it's not that strong. There's this moment, next time you get angry, pay attention to this. There is this moment when it's starting that it's weak still. So the tendency is there to express it, but it's not that strong. You can stop it at that point. If you let it go, if you allow it to continue, it becomes so strong, you just have to watch it, right? You can't control it afterwards. But at its root, it's possible to control it. Now, how can I control it? The tendency is there. There are a few things that can help. One thing is to, again, come to the body. I'm not saying suppress it, because if you suppress it, if you feel anger and don't express it, it gets suppressed, it comes back later on, right? I don't know if you must have had an experience like this, right? You're in an argument with someone, you keep trying to be polite. You're angry, but you try not to say anything, keep suppressing it. And then they say another thing, you lose control, and 10 times stronger, you lash out, right? You get angry. So don't suppress. What is the way to deal with this? Again, go to the body, right? The body is always one of the best ways to deal with this, right? So anger comes, you quote it at its root, and then try and see what is the sensation in my body, right? A lot of the time, anger expresses itself here, right? Feel it. Feel the sensations. Be there. Feel the sensations. This is what anger feels like in my body, okay? Now, the more you do this, the weaker it becomes. Now, initially, maybe the first few times, you may not even be able to stop it. But the more you do this, the weaker its patterns become. Because usually the reason why it's so powerful is that we don't know what hit us. Suddenly we feel like we're overtaken by this monster, does certain things, and then goes. But the more you understand it, this is what's happening. My heart is beating. Sometimes in your shoulders you feel it. Sometimes you feel it here. Look in your body and see what are the sensations of anger, and immediately it loses some of its power. So These are some of the things we can do at that moment. But another thing that we need to do once that episode is gone, we don't need to wait till the other episode. We need to go and figure out, how did we learn this pattern of anger? Because what is anger? Anger is a learned behavior. At some point in our life, we learned to deal with conflicts, with threats, with attacks through anger. Okay? So it's a learned behavior. At some point, this is the way we thought we can protect ourselves. So, by going back and figuring out, when did we learn this? How did we create this pattern? And of course, inshallah, we can speak again about this in one other session. There are ways. It's possible, you know. It's steps you can take. It's very straightforward. Don't feel overwhelmed. You look and you try to see, when was it that you formed this pattern? When did you learn to use anger to protect yourself? Okay? And as we do this, one thing which is very important is not to feel blame towards this part of you which gets angry. Because the reason this anger is there in the first place was to protect you. Okay? So although now it's hurting others, it's doing wrong thing, we try to stop it, but we don't blame it. That part of us that thinks it can protect us like this, at some point it didn't know any other way. So you have to be compassionate towards the part of you that through anger tried to protect you. Okay? So this is also very important. And then we go and we see, when was it that I learned to defend myself through anger? And you may even be surprised that, for example, maybe it was when you were hurt. Because, you know, for some people, the time they learn to be angry is they were in a very vulnerable situation as a child, right? Maybe there was a family member who hurt them, or who were abusive to them, or just was rude, maybe not very soft. They felt very vulnerable. And when you're vulnerable, what do? Many of us, what we do when we feel so hurt and vulnerable is we look around us and we try to see who is powerful here. And we say, okay, in order to protect myself, I have to be like them. So that's why a lot of children who are hurt, who are abused, may later on become angry. Because when they were vulnerable, when they were so weak, the way they thought they can protect themselves was to look at the most powerful person in the room, say, I have to be like them. And if the most powerful person in the room was an angry person, they learned to be angry. Okay? So if you look at it this way, you realize, oh my God, the reason I started becoming angry was to protect myself, right? So don't blame the angry part. It was there to protect you. Feel compassionate for it, but you have to unlearn this pattern, right? Learn how to deal with these situations through more mature ways. At one point, this was the best you could do, but now you can do better. Ways which don't harm you that much.